Have you ever wondered if a truly productive garden even needs big garden beds to begin with? It sounds a little unusual, because most of us grow up believing that if we want plants to thrive, they need lots of open soil and room for their roots to spread. But that assumption isn't always true. After several growing seasons working with vegetables in backyards, on patios, balconies, and even old recycled containers, I've learned something surprising. A lot of plants actually do better in pots than they do straight in the ground. The reason comes down to control. A container lets you manage nearly every variable: how much moisture the soil holds, how well it drains, the quality of the growing mix, feeding schedules, pest pressure, and even where the plant sits throughout the day. Too much rain? Move it under cover. Sun getting too harsh? Shift it somewhere shadier. Garden soil too dense, compacted, or overrun with weeds? Swap it for a loose, well-aerated potting mix and give the plant exactly what it needs. What's even more interesting is that certain vegetables don't just tolerate container life, they actually perform better in it. Cleaner harvests, fewer disease problems, and a perfect fit for tight spaces like balconies, patios, or a sunny spot by the front door. Today we're counting down 15 vegetables and herbs that grow exceptionally well in containers. Some of these you've probably grown before, but a few names on this list might genuinely catch you off guard. Whether you're working with a full backyard or just a handful of pots by the kitchen door, this list proves one thing: a thriving garden doesn't require acres of land. Sometimes, all it takes is the right plant, the right container, and the right conditions. Let's start the countdown. 1. Cucumbers. This one tends to surprise people the most, since cucumbers have a reputation for needing tons of sprawling space. But grown the right way, cucumbers can absolutely excel in containers. The secret is going vertical. With a sturdy trellis, cucumber vines climb up instead of sprawling out, saving space and keeping the garden looking neat. Lifting the foliage off the ground also boosts airflow, which cuts down on the moisture-related fungal issues cucumbers are prone to. Trellised cucumbers stay cleaner too, with far less risk of rot, misshaping, or ground-level pest damage. Containers also let you fine-tune water and nutrients essential, since cucumbers are thirsty plants that still can't tolerate soggy roots. If any plant proves that a great garden isn't about square footage, it's this one. 2. Strawberries. Once gardeners try strawberries in containers, many never go back to growing them in the ground. The fruit stays noticeably cleaner. In-ground strawberries often touch damp soil and end up dirty, moldy, or rotting before they fully ripen. Lifted up in a pot, the berries get better airflow, stay drier, and are much less likely to spoil. Containers also make it harder for slugs and ground insects to reach the fruit, and combined with a well-draining mix, that typically means healthier plants and better quality berries. Harvesting is more comfortable too, no bending over garden rows, since pots can sit on shelves, tables, or hang in baskets at a much friendlier height. 3. Basil. If there's one herb practically made for containers, it's basil. It wants evenly moist soil, plenty of sun, and solid drainage, but it struggles fast if its roots sit in water too long, especially after a heavy rain. A pot with a fast-draining mix keeps the roots healthy and dramatically lowers the risk of root rot and fungal issues. Keep one by the kitchen door, and you'll always have fresh leaves ready for pasta, pizza, salads, or pesto. And here's the trick. Basil actually grows better the more you harvest it regularly. Pinching the tips encourages bushier growth and more new leaves. A single well-tended basil plant can supply fresh leaves for meal after meal all season long. 4. Mint. Mint is famously easy to grow, so easy that the real challenge in garden beds isn't getting it to grow, it's stopping it from taking over everything around it. Its underground runners spread aggressively. With regular watering and the occasional trim, mint forms a lush, fragrant clump and just keeps producing week after week, perfect for tea, drinks, garnishes, or salads. For mint specifically, a container isn't just a convenient option, it's arguably the smartest one, letting you enjoy its vigorous growth while keeping the rest of your garden from getting overrun. 5. Swiss chard. Swiss chard is as beautiful as it is productive in a container. Those vibrant, colorful stems can transform even a tiny garden corner. It's a tough, adaptable plant, thriving in cool weather, but still producing through warm days, as long as it's watered well. A container lets you build richer soil, which pushes chard toward large, thick, glossy leaves. Like kale, it's cut and come again harvest the outer leaves, while the center keeps growing, giving you weeks or even months of continuous harvest from a single plant. This isn't a plant built for one big dramatic harvest. It earns its place through steady, low-maintenance production. Okra. Okra is a serious heat lover. The more sun and warmth it gets, the better it performs, which makes containers a real advantage. After long rainy stretches, garden soil can stay cool and wet for too long, slowing okra roots down and weakening the plant. Containers warm up faster and drain more efficiently, giving okra exactly the conditions it wants: sturdy stems, big leaves, and continuous flowering and pod production all summer. Harvesting is easier too, since raised pots put the pods at eye level, where you can catch them while they're still young and tender critical, since overripe okra pods turn tough and fibrous fast. A few healthy potted okra plants can keep a family supplied with pods right through the hottest months. 7. Sugar snap peas. A lot of people assume peas need a long garden row, but with a proper trellis, they adapt beautifully to containers. Since sugar snap peas climb rather than sprawl, they're a natural fit for balconies, tight patios, or narrow corners. Growing vertically also improves airflow around the stems and foliage, keeping things drier and cutting down on fungal issues that crop up when plants grow too crowded. Harvesting gets easier. 2 pods hang visibly on the trellis, instead of hiding in a tangle of vines. Give them a sturdy trellis, a roomy pot, and full sun, and you'll get a steady, reliable harvest. Sometimes growing up beats spreading out. 8. Ginger develops quietly underground, and since we're harvesting the rhizome itself, the quality of the growing medium matters enormously. Heavy, compacted garden soil can slow rhizome development and make harvesting a real chore. In a container, you can build a light, organic-rich, well-draining mix that gives the rhizomes exactly the environment they want. Ginger likes consistent moisture but hates sitting in water, and containers make that balance far easier to hit than open garden soil does. Come harvest time, there's no digging up a whole bed, just tip the pot, or loosen the mix, and lift out fresh ginger. It doesn't take much space, but the payoff at harvest is deeply satisfying. 9. Parsley. Most people think of parsley as a garnish, but grow it yourself and you'll realize it's one of the most compact and reliable herbs around. It needs very little room. A small pot on a balcony, patio, or sunny windowsill is enough. Containers make moisture easy to manage, since parsley likes soil that's consistently moist but never soggy, and with steady care, it'll keep producing fresh leaves all season. Best of all, you can keep a pot right by the kitchen and snip a few sprigs whenever a soup, salad, or roast needs a fresh finishing touch. Small herbs like this often end up being the most used plants in the whole garden. 10. Beetroot. This one tends to surprise people, since beetroot is a root crop most assume must go straight into the ground. In reality, with the right pot and soil mix, beets do very well in containers. The key is loose, soft, uncompacted soil in garden beds. Beets often run into rocks or hard clay that leave the roots misshapen, but a container gives you full control over that texture, letting the roots form round and even. Consistent moisture is easier to maintain in a pot too, and steady watering, without waterlogging, tends to produce sweeter, more tender roots. Bonus: the greens are edible as well, so one plant gives you 2 harvests, tender leaves and mature roots. With enough depth and rich soil, beets prove that even underground crops can flourish in small spaces. 11. Bok choy. For anyone who wants a fast, low-maintenance harvest, bok choy is an excellent container candidate. Its root system stays fairly shallow, so it doesn't need much depth. A medium pot or a growing tray with loose soil is plenty. Containers also mean far less weed competition, so nutrients go straight into building thick, crisp stems and clean leaves. And if a heat wave rolls in, you can simply relocate the pot to a cooler spot to stop the plant from bolting early. In home gardens, container-grown bok choy tends to grow fast, stay tidy, and harvest easily, a great pick for anyone short on space but craving fresh greens. 12. Kale. Many assume kale belongs strictly in raised beds or garden rows, but it actually thrives in containers, sometimes even more easily than in the ground. Kale wants nutrient-dense soil and steady moisture, and a container lets you build that ideal soil from day one, rather than depending on whatever your yard happens to offer. Mobility is another huge win. On scorching days, kale can toughen up or lose flavor if it bakes in full sun too long, but a potted plant can simply be moved into afternoon shade to keep the leaves tender and mild. Kale is also cut and come again harvest the outer leaves, and the center keeps producing. A handful of pots can keep your kitchen stocked with fresh greens without ever needing a dedicated garden bed. 13. Eggplant. Eggplant craves sunlight, warmth, and a root zone that never sits cold or waterlogged, which is exactly why it does so well in containers, especially in climates where ground soil is slow to warm up in spring. A container's growing mix heats up faster during the day, and that warmth pushes the plant toward vigorous growth, earlier flowering, and a longer fruiting window. Eggplant also despises heavy, compacted, water-holding soil, something a lighter container mix easily solves. Compact varieties are especially well suited to small patios and balconies, still producing those glossy purple fruits without needing a full garden bed. A well-tended eggplant can keep fruiting from midsummer clear into early fall, proof that productivity is about environment, not acreage. 14. Peppers. Peppers are practically built for container life. Their root systems stay compact, they don't demand much space, and they love heat both from the sun and from warm soil, which containers naturally provide faster than ground soil does, especially early in the season. That head start means quicker root establishment, earlier flowering, and steadier fruiting. Containers also make it easy to avoid the excess moisture peppers hate, which can otherwise cause dropped flowers or root rot. With good drainage holes, a loose mix, and adequate nutrients, pepper plants pour their energy into fruit instead of just foliage. Bell peppers, long peppers, spicy chilies, whatever variety you choose, 6 to 8 hours of direct sun a day can keep you harvesting for months from just a few pots. 15. Cherry tomatoes. If you've ever battled large tomato varieties that came out weak, disease-prone, or underwhelming, don't give up on tomatoes just yet. Cherry tomatoes tend to tell a completely different story in containers. Their root systems are manageable, but they're sensitive to soggy soil, and a pot lets you dial in drainage and watering precisely, which means healthier roots, fewer yellowing leaves, and far less fungal trouble. Containers also give you mobility. Heavy rain or a sudden storm rolling in? Just relocate the plant, give it plenty of sun, consistent watering, regular feeding, and solid support, and a single cherry tomato plant can load up with cluster after cluster of sweet, colorful fruit all season. Big harvests don't always need big beds. Sometimes they just need the right pot in the right spot. Wrap up, and that's the full list. 15 vegetables and herbs that genuinely thrive in containers. If all you've got is a small patio, a sunny balcony, or a few pots by the front door, don't count yourself out of having a productive garden. Choose the right plants, build good soil, water consistently, and place your containers where conditions favor them, and you really can grow a serious harvest right at home. Sometimes a small, well-managed container garden outperforms a sprawling one.